Huh?
I gotta
have a
go take
question
care
for
of some
Will.
business. I'll be right back.
Okay, back to Marty. So have you used this in the past with Zoom meetings on your Mac?
Yes, it worked fine.
Okay, well, things happen to change on their own on computers. I don't know why, but you might want to go into your system preferences and look under, I don't know if it's privacy security. It depends on what version of the Mac operating system you're running, but you have to give explicit permission
Ring, ring.
for Zoom to use your video camera. It's a privacy matter, as well as your microphone. And you might look in there and see if it's checked for Zoom to use it.
However, you have a very good picture on your video, so we don't have a problem. Or you shouldn't have a problem.
Okay, well, I'll work on it. Thank you. I don't know why it's doing that, but I fooled around with it. I was trying to get things going and I don't know why it's doing
I have
Yeah,
a question for Will.
Yes.
You subscribed to Malwarebytes for a group, and I was part of that group. Now they're asking for a renewal, and I'm just wondering if you have renewed it or you're going to renew it.
Unfortunately, I didn't have you listed as one of the group. Did you get it last year?
Yes. Okay, so you're telling me that I need to do something different.
I'm telling you that I don't have any of the ones left. They've all been allocated.
Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you.
I'll put you on the list though for next year.
Okay.
How many come in the, is it like a block of 5?
Yeah, 5 come. And
I know that I
you get
got
2 and Pat and Alice. And myself. That's the 5.
So maybe next year we'll buy a bigger pack.
Yeah. Can do.
and I'm going to add one more thing for Marty, just
Yeah.
for the future. You might say go into FaceTime or something else that uses the camera and just make sure the camera is functioning within the Mac
it was, I did that.
today.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it's not that. I'm just saying other things happen and hardware seems to get invisible to the operating system at times. But if it's working in another application like FaceTime, then it's limited to Zoom at this point. And I would just check your system preferences and make sure that Zoom is entitled to use the camera.
Okay, thank you.
And when she clicks the start video, nothing happens, huh?
No, it's still red. It's got that red line through it.
Yeah, that red line through it is what it shows when you have clicked stop video and turned the video off. But the red line should disappear if you click the icon again.
He's talking about the icon in the lower left-hand corner of the
Okay,
Zoom
I
session.
did it. I did that.
Okay, you're back on. We see you.
Much better.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, is this what they call it today? It takes a village to open a Zoom.
I think it takes a click.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're always that sort of a clique.
Anyway, those are the best problems because they're easiest to solve.
We know what those red lines mean.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew it was bad, but I couldn't fix it.
Talking about clicking, I knew the world was changing when my 6-year-old daughter was 6 years old. She held up 2 boxes of cereal. Which should I have? Click here or click here?
Oh, jeez.
And there was no place to swipe.
No, swiping wasn't the thing yet.
That's all right.
Well, all you guys enjoying yourself in the nice sunny climate. So it's a record, I'm sure you've heard about the freeze, the Arctic freeze. It's a minus 45.
Whoa.
Oh,
And that's with the wind chill. Really, it's only like minus 22, but add
Oh, well.
it's minus 45.
well, that makes all the difference.
And if you step outside for more than like 3 minutes, you get instant frostbite. So
Oh.
it's been interesting. I've never been in weather like this ever anywhere. But so far the electricity's on, so we're staying warm, so that's okay.
You're better off than in Texas where some of it isn't on.
Yeah. I
I
know.
remember, I didn't always have a palm tree behind me. I had to walk to breakfast about a half a mile when I went to school in Concord, New Hampshire. One morning, I checked the thermometer before I headed out, and it said 32 below.
My gosh.
Yeah, well, in Michigan, where Pat and I are from, it was when I was in high school, I walked, it was like a mile and a half to school, and women could not wear pants. So I had to wear a skirt and knee highs or something. And so an area between, it was really cold.
In San Diego, the schools close when it rains,
Yeah, right.
or if the wind blows, they close the schools. We used to walk. I was from upstate New York, and of course, we only closed the school if we had 6 feet of snow.
Yeah, that's true. You know, like Texas, we lived in New Orleans, and if you get like a half an inch of snow, the town shuts down. They have no clue what to do with it. Like a major disaster.
Well, we've got 18 participants, and it's 37 minutes after the hour, so I think I will start. I decided that I was going to run a discussion today about what is the cloud and where is the cloud and so forth. And I was going to put together a video of my own, but I decided to just ask that question on YouTube, and I found 4 interesting YouTube videos on this subject. So that's what you're going to see this morning. And once I get the right share clicked,
Hank is having some technical difficulties with thunderstorms in Hawaii right now.
You're muted, Hank.
okay, I'm stopped muting. I will start this video again, and someone tell me whether or not you can see it in a minute or so.
For the cloud, you might have backed up your documents.
Yeah,
It's
we see
showing
it.
up.
Is this supposed to be playing? It looks to be frozen.
Hank is coming back in.
Saul, can you take over as host?
Amount of information online. Many cloud services are based on a
Saul, I think you better,
Okay. I'll try to play it from my side.
yeah, and run the first one. I keep getting dumped. Yeah, we're up to 21 participants.
Okay, can people see some video on their screen?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, let me see if I can maximize it and then I'll play it.
No sound. I think you didn't click the two little,
Yes, I was trying to get back to you. You're correct. I'll fix that.
you might see a dog, a dinosaur, or your data. Okay, your data isn't actually stored in a cloud in the sky, but it's easy to think so when there's so much talk about cloud computing. So how does the cloud work? The cloud is a global network of servers around the world acting as one massive hard drive. Every time you sign into your Gmail account, watch a show on Netflix, or open a file from Dropbox, you're using the cloud. Before the cloud, you might have backed up your documents, photos, or music to an external device like a CD-ROM or to your computer's hard drive. Now you can back up all of that information to the cloud. When I back up my iPhone to the cloud, my files are sent to servers in Apple's data centers all around the world. I can access those servers by connecting to the internet. So even if I lose or break my phone, not that it's ever happened before, that data isn't lost forever. There are a few obvious benefits to consumers from the cloud besides giving you peace of mind if you lose your phone. You can access your data anytime, anywhere if you're connected to the internet. And you don't have to worry about using up all of your storage on your hard drive, meaning you might not have to pay as much for a device that comes with a ton of storage. Businesses are also benefiting big time from cloud computing. It's estimated worldwide revenue from the cloud will exceed $200 billion in 2019. That's up from $145 billion just 2 years ago. You've probably heard of the two biggest names in the market, Amazon Web Services, known as AWS, and Microsoft Azure. IBM, Google, and Alibaba are also big players when it comes to providing cloud services. It's not just big tech moving business into the cloud. Smaller companies are buying in too as a way to grow their businesses. Just think, instead of having to buy all of this hardware to back up your data, you can store an unlimited amount of information online. Many cloud services are based on a subscription pricing model. That means customers pay, for example, a monthly fee for cloud services, and they can scale up or down as needed. And cloud providers are cashing in. AWS accounts for roughly 12% of Amazon's quarterly sales, but it generates more than half of the company's operating income. Before we get too excited about the cloud, let's take a step back and look at some of the risks. One obvious concern: if all of our data is online, what happens when the internet goes down? That's what happened in 2013 when an AWS outage took down Instagram, Vine, and Airbnb. Cyber attacks are another big risk, with research showing around 1/5 of all files in the cloud contain sensitive data. Finally, it can be tough for consumers and businesses to switch between different cloud companies. I might have a hard time syncing my iCloud and Google Drive accounts. That can give some big companies that are already making big money on the cloud a lot of power over our data. Hey everyone, it's Elizabeth. Thanks so much for watching. Let us know if you have any other ideas.
Was everybody able to hear and see that?
That worked great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. Give me a moment.
Some of these are out of date, as you saw when they talked about next year in 2021.
Maybe you could slow that down a little bit.
I'll give it a shot. Just give me a moment.
Good question, Dan. While he's working on that, how do you slow it down and how do you synchronize the audio to it?
You go the gear. When you click on the gear, one of the things that pops up is playback speed.
I think we can have Saul demonstrate for us.
Okay.
Not every presentation has that capability, but some of them, you can slow down the speed and the audio both.
I think if you're playing a YouTube video, they all have that gear, I think.
Okay, I'm ready for the second one, and I've slowed it down a quarter of the way, and we'll see how it goes. I'll get it going in a moment.
There she is.
My head's been in the cloud. Bet you've been there too. But where is this cloud? That enigmatic entity storing our data on the internet? David Pogue of Yahoo Finance knows and tells all in our Sunday morning cover story.
These days, you can't walk through an airport, read a magazine, or open a computer without seeing ads for the cloud.
The cloud, where everyone can access everything they save from anywhere they are.
The ads clearly suggest that the cloud is desirable, but what they don't say is what the cloud is. Well, here's the basic idea. In the beginning, we all kept our own stuff on our own computers. In the new world of the cloud, though, your computer files don't have to be on your computer. They can be stored out on the internet, alongside everyone else's, in huge centralized buildings called data centers. Your computer or phone can then fetch your files on the spot, wherever you happen to be. Now, you may have encountered the cloud as a synchronizing service. For example, Apple's iCloud service. If I edit this photo on my Apple laptop, maybe make it black and white, maybe crop in on it, a couple of seconds later, I'll see the exact same changes show up on that photo on my Apple phone. Now, these two devices are not directly connected. Instead, that data made an intermediate hop. In a fraction of a second, it comes here to a massive data center, and then it returned to the phone. Most of the time, though, you use the cloud without knowing it, because most of those cloud data centers exist to serve companies.
So it could be retail, it could be real estate, healthcare, life sciences, oil and gas, everything from small initial startups right through to the very, very largest enterprises.
Matt Wood is a general manager at Amazon Web Services, or AWS. It's by far the biggest cloud service company in the world, bigger than its next 14 competitors combined. So all of these industries, all of these companies are hiring AWS to do what?
Let's say you're a brewery. They want to brew beer. They don't want to manage computers. They want to brew beer. They don't want to be going through the expense and the upfront cost and all the complexity of managing these large amounts of computers.
What you're saying is that cloud companies like AWS are basically renting computers, storage, power, security, all the stuff that technicians would have normally had to do on site, right?
That's right, yeah. And so today, very large organizations such as GE, Shell, Philips, Netflix, all run on top of AWS.
If you'd like to see what the cloud looks like, all you have to do is visit a data center, like this one belonging to Raging Wire in Virginia. But good luck getting in.
This is a retinal scanner, and this one's kind of interesting because this one's smart enough to know whether my eyeball is alive or not. So that means you can't take another eyeball and hold it up to here.
Well, darn, because I was sort of hoping to kill you and sneak in.
It's not going to work here.
Fortunately, marketing director Jim Leach agreed to give me a tour.
Oh, this is called a man trap. Man trap. And the secret here is that one door has to close and lock before the other door can open.
Once you get past the concrete barriers, the armed guards, the retina scanner, the man trap, and 9 password-protected doors, you find out what's inside a data center. Just racks and racks and racks of powerful computers. This is the internet.
This is the internet, this is the cloud. Basically, in this room, ballpark, there's about 3 million websites running right now.
For security reasons, they'll never tell you whose websites. But every site and app you've ever heard of, Facebook, Twitter, Netflix, Uber, Airbnb, the New York Times, even CBS News, lives in data center cages like this one. All right, I gotta ask, what happens in a power failure?
It's backed up by batteries that can run the entire facility for about 10 minutes while we turn on these massive generators that can run continuously.
This data center is in Loudoun County, Virginia, which turns out not to be much of a surprise.
70% of all web traffic on a daily basis from the world goes through a Loudoun County data center.
Come on!
70%.
Buddy Reiser is the county's head of business development. He's helped turn Loudoun County into the largest concentration of data centers in the world, 10 million square feet in 70 enormous buildings.
What do the data centers need and how do we provide it? And it comes down to power and water and fiber and workforce and proximity. And I think the other thing you need is plenty of green space to build, because these are really big buildings, as you can see.
Why is the shot of olive oil the
But hold on a second. If we're concentrating all of our data into data centers and concentrating most of the data centers into one county, doesn't that make a very tempting target for terrorists? Amazon's Matt Wood isn't worried.
If something does happen, or we have a power event, or there's a flood in one specific location, that data is held redundantly in other locations as well. So
I don't mean to give anyone ideas, but let's say I figured out that one of these unmarked buildings was an AWS data center, and I blew it up. Are you saying that it's so backed up and redundant that probably you wouldn't notice?
yeah, you wouldn't notice. I mean, we might be a bit upset, but we wouldn't notice.
Okay, so the cloud offers speed, security, flexibility, and savings to the world's businesses. But that doesn't mean it's flawless.
A really obvious example is that the cloud uses a massive amount of power.
Tung-Wei Hu is a University of Michigan professor and author of A Prehistory of the Cloud.
Greenpeace calculated that if you added up all these data centers, they would be the 5th most power-hungry country in the world. They're idle 96% of the time, and the reason is because they're waiting for that.
What are?
Data centers are just computers sitting around doing nothing for 96% of the time. And that's because they're waiting for a spike in traffic. They're waiting for the next music video to go viral. It's those exceptional moments which they have to build a capacity for it. But most of the time, nothing really happens on the internet besides a lot of cat videos.
And then there's all the secrecy.
We don't know anything about what Amazon or Google really does with our data. We have to take their word for it. In fact, if anything, we sign away half of our rights to these data because the cloud is this strange way of letting the companies decide what happens to the data that you have.
But even Professor Hu admits that the cloud is here to stay. Amazon's AWS is on track to make $16 billion this year, dwarfing the part of Amazon that most people know, the part that sells books and things. AWS is growing at 40% a year, and Loudoun County can't build data centers fast enough. Buddy Reiser says there are 7 new ones under construction right now.
And how long will it take them to build that?
Probably under 2 years.
Are you saying that this kind of construction is being built to anticipate the demand a couple years from now, or is there already enough demand to fill this?
This is 100% leased already. I mean, it's not getting ahead. We're just barely keeping up. There's no empty space in our data centers. By and large, they're all 100% filled.
Are we supposed to be hearing something? Because I'm not.
No, not right now. I'm going to the third video. Give me a moment.
Okay, thanks.
This third one I found hard to believe.
One that just played, I think was the best I've ever seen. It really gave a good explanation. That was great.
Yeah, I was pretty pleased to find what I found.
8 million data centers around the world are processing our entire online lives thousands of times a second. But Microsoft may have just rewritten this growing industry, and it may be for the better. With our reliance on cloud-based services expected to be at an all-time high in 2021 due to a huge shift online pushed forward by the ongoing pandemic, the need for the most energy and time-efficient data centers is crucial moving forward. Microsoft has just reached the end of a 2-year Stage 2 experiment, syncing our data to the ocean floor. And here's why this is big news. On the 9th of July 2020, the tech giant reeled up what it calls its northern Isles, a 12.2-meter-long steel cylinder from the seabed. The giant tube remained 117 feet below the surface for 2 whole years, gathering data which would later be analysed by engineers. The company chose to locate this long-term experiment 10 miles off the coast of Scotland in the Orkney Isles archipelago. Here, 100% of the energy comes from environmentally green sources such as wind and solar. The problem with data centres on land is that they are subject to a battering from all directions. From the oxygen and humidity in the air, land-based facilities face the serious threat of corrosion, while temperature fluctuations prove to be costly for the cooling systems required to keep the servers at peak operational temperature. Of course, the constant foot traffic from cleaning and maintenance teams can also be a cause for concern, with bumps, jostles, and genuine accidents jeopardizing the equipment's longevity. Sinking this facility in an airtight, waterproof container alleviates some of these concerns. Consistently cool temperatures, for example, help with thermoregulation. That means less energy required to keep the computers cool, a plus for the environment as well as our pockets. About 1/5 of a data center's energy requirements are destined for keeping a cool temperature, but this is reduced to a minimal amount when surrounded naturally by seawater. The flexibility of Project Natick, the codename given to this research exercise, helps alleviate concerns that traditional land-based data centers have over natural disasters and other attacks. After all, breaking into a conventional data center with its highly trained armed security seems easy compared to reaching it on the sea floor. More than 50% of the world's population lives within 120 miles of the coast. That's about 2 hours by car. While conventional warehouses are located miles away from cities, often in the middle of nowhere, having access within a stone's throw means a shorter distance for data to travel, saving energy and providing lightning-fast access to consumers. Due to the shift in cloud-based computing, experts believe it would be more beneficial in terms of energy and providing a stable access to customers to have multiple smaller data centers dispersed among populations rather than drawing from one external warehouse. There will still be the right time and the right place for housing data on land, but it will inevitably become less common. The project envisions its offshore submerged vessels being powered by partnering wind farms. Previously thought of as an unreliable source of electricity, the uninterrupted winds at sea make it the perfect pairing. However, along with the fiber optic cable linking the tubes to land, which are necessary to transfer data, an entwined power line could provide a backup source. Thought up at Microsoft's Think Week 2014, an annual event where employees share advanced new ideas, the project required a multinational effort to make it happen. The cylinder, for example, was built by French shipbuilder Naval before being loaded with its servers and sent on its way to its Scottish residence. There, the European Marine Energy Centre hooked it up with its underwater cables before it was sunk in June 2018. The unit, whose internal diameter measures 2.8 meters, required endless negotiating and communication to sink, resulting in an entire day's work. Everyone involved had to wait for calm waters to perform the seafloor surgery, whether that is not typical for the region of the North Sea. Housed inside, 864 servers with a combined output of 27.6 petabytes. That's 27.6 million gigabytes. Enough storage to retain nearly 5 million movies, or the equivalent of over 100,000 MacBooks. So the Northern Isles spent just over 2 years under the sea gathering data along its journey. What do we know about the project? Was it a success? Another full day of retrieval pulled up the same white container with a thin covering of algae, barnacles and sea anemones. A quick wash resulted in surprisingly clean bodywork emerging from underneath. From this one experiment, the various teams of engineers and researchers at Microsoft have deduced that syncing a data center like this is 8 times more reliable than housing computers in land-based warehouses, although why, they're not sure. Despite a handful of failed servers which were taken offline, no maintenance was carried out for the duration of the testing stage. They believe that being filled with dry nitrogen may have something to do with its extraordinary success, a substance that is less corrosive than the oxygen that forms part of the air on land. Rather than the frequent maintenance required by their land-based counterparts, these ocean dwellers are built to survive half a decade before returning to the surface for a full health check. At present, other than knowing that Project Natick was largely a success, we know very little else. teams are still busy researching and dissecting the information that was gathered. Many citizens may share a concern that exploiting an environment that has remained virtually untouched for millennia is a huge no-go. But we must remember that even in their thousands, these data centers would hypothetically take up less than a single % of the seafloor. Cloud expert Paul Johnston estimates that nearly 2% of the planet's entire carbon footprint comes from data centers, so any effort to reduce this will surely be a good thing. Yes, say the critics, but what about their effect on the sea's temperature? An inherent lack in a cooling system such as that of a conventional data center is great, but this is because the ocean's naturally cool waters help disseminate this heat. Nevertheless, the effect this is said to have on the surrounding water is negligible. Of course, even a single degree can cause devastation to the seascape, but the change measured a few meters downstream is said to be a fraction of a degree, barely noticeable with even the most advanced measuring tools. Furthermore, Microsoft believes it has found a benefit to sinking these structures on the seafloor. Fish and other aquatic life adore solid structures, especially ones with nooks and crannies. Take a look at shipwrecks, which have transformed into ocean havens. That is exactly the effect that these are destined to have. The North Sea had already claimed the data center as one of its own, with soft sea life shown to be attached upon removal. We can only imagine how fish and other sea life will have interacted with it during its time spent on the seafloor. While we await a full debrief of the project, work is already being carried out restoring the seabed to its original state. We are assured too that the steel pressure vessel, the heat exchangers, the servers, and in fact all of the other components are being recycled either for their materials or for full use in another area of the company's operations. Right now, it's clear that Microsoft is rewriting what we know about data centers, and although it may take some time for this change to become widespread, the human population will reap its environmental, economic, and social benefits for years to come. Vital in today's climate, it's promising to see that even one of the world's most dominating companies can show some compassion towards the environment. Maybe it's the lightning-fast access to cloud-based services, or it could be the lighter environmental impact. But whatever it is, let us know why you're most excited about this new generation of data center, or maybe why you still have some reservations.
That certainly makes a whole lot of sense.
Thank you, Saul, for getting those through. Are we done now?
Yes. If I get a little more advance notice next time, I will just be more efficient at it.
The fourth one that I have on the website, on our website, which I was only going to play just the beginning of, because it talks about the data centers and their numbers in India. India is rapidly becoming a major player in all sorts of places and things, largely due to its population. It's about to become the most populous country on Earth, more than China.
I heard that China is now actually slightly shrinking.
Yeah, I heard this. I saw the same thing. Well, if you're done, Saul, there's no sense in playing just the beginning of that, because that's all I wanted everybody to know, that that India was building data centers faster than the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think others can go to the SCG website and play it on their own.
Yeah, I wasn't going to play very much of it.
How old was that Microsoft video?
I think about 2 years.
So I wonder if they've advanced that considerably since that time.
Don't know. This is just what I found on YouTube.
One of the problems that I have heard recently, though, that they're kind of afraid, there's so many whales that are being beached that are killed, and they're thinking that it could be coming from the vibrations in the bottom of the ocean, not by those containers, but by the windmills that they have to put in there. And so there's a real concern that it's killing the sea life.
Having been one of the whale killers, according to some Save the Whales people, because I was in submarines, and submarines have been alleged
That's right.
killing whales. There are all sorts of things that have been alleged to killing all the whales.
So Stan has his virtual hand up.
I'd just like to comment that the reactions tab allows you to send a message quietly. And I was using it when the speed, Saul dropped it to what I felt was an uncomfortable speed, and I asked him to speed it up, and I believe he did. And I would encourage you, if you feel a playback is going too fast or too slow, to give us a feedback so that whoever's doing it can adjust the speed. Obviously, that's not possible in a live presentation, but in a playback presentation, sometimes it is.
Yeah, I was using my judgment, and on the middle video, it was already slow enough so that I put it back to normal. And on the third one, I started it normal, and then it was too fast, and so I slowed it down a little bit, a couple minutes into it.
Thank you for paying that level of attention.
I'm curious as to how they slow down and synchronize the sound. It would seem to me that is a very difficult job to do.
Agreed.
My first thought is it's time sampling. Video and audio is not analog anymore, it's digital. And if they break it up into very short segments, but keep the frequency that it is, they can speed up and slow down audio and video because it is no longer analog. Obviously, if you speed up a audio tape, the pitch is going to rise. But if it's digital, it will time sample and drop out a few milliseconds or micromilliseconds or whatever on a regular basis and slow it down.
Yeah, thanks.
In the old days,
Well, actually,
in the old days, if you speeded it up, it went like this, and it sounded just like that. And if you slowed it down, it went down like it sounded like this.
Right.
Yeah. And what they do with their digital sampling, if they want it to slow down, then basically, it's like they'll just put in extra amounts of the waves so that whatever that tone is just lasts for a little bit longer.
Yeah, just
and if,
double and triple up each of the microseconds, milliseconds.
Well, because you don't, because that'd be 2 times or 4 times faster than this. But if you want to go just a little bit faster, if you have, if a sound lasts for this long, just sample that sound, put a little bit more of it in, and it'll be now 10% slower.
Yeah.
If Pat isn't discouraged from having her virtual hand up and ignored, she's welcome to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, I figured out the answer. That's all.
Okay.
Progress. We must be doing something right. That's for a lot of time and has had a lot of questions. So she figured her own out.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of bad synchronization of audio video on TV now, and I don't know if I'm just noticing it or if it's a new thing that's happening. But
if
David?
Okay. Will, I noticed that when on my TV, I went from having the TV playing the sound to having it come into my headphones. And sometimes there's a little bit of a delay between when it goes out of the TV and it has to come across the wireless and over to your headphones. And, I'm used to it now, but when it first happened, the lip sync looks to be off a little bit. And so that's one way you can get those things out of sync. Normally they should arrive in sync. If you're playing anything through a digital feed, if there's hiccups in that feed, then you may get little stops and starts.
I don't know what sort of delay you can be aware of, but I would expect it's a few milliseconds, maybe.
So is there a way to?
I know I worked in film where the audio was on a separate media than the video or images.
Mhm.
And so you could adjust the synchronization of voice to picture by changing that relationship. And that was a very critical thing. Currently, the media that the audio and video is on, mainly digital, there should not be any lack of voice synchronization. And when there is, it's usually an indication of artificiality of some sort or something causing that. Well, when they, for instance, when they lip sync over a foreign film, they're trying to make lip movement agree with the sound, but it's very difficult because the words are different. So sometimes you'll see errors in synchronization when in fact it's a translation and they're trying to mimic the actor speaking.
We might want to get back to the original topic, and Ross has his hand up.
So I'm on this audio topic is what I had a question. If you want to finish up with the cloud storage first, everything is, yes, in the cloud. Most companies run programs out of servers like the Amazon server, where they don't have to have the servers are in the cloud. Now, and the same thing with
your microphone is muted, Ross.
Ross, you're muted.
So I was using the space bar and it was just fine. And then it said, no, that's not going to work anymore. Okay. Amazon servers are used by most businesses to hold their information and programs where they don't have to have them on site. Microsoft Azure is a place also. You could take a copy of your Windows or Mac computer and run it in a virtual memory on a server. And then you could access that with anything, a phone, a tablet, a Mac, a PC, and then do that operation. We have started to see, though, that the cost to hosting those servers in the cloud is going up. So we're looking at bringing some of those things back down to local hardware because of the costs of those. And if you look at any multi-user program, say QuickBooks, and you say, I want to run QuickBooks in the cloud, the cost to run that QuickBooks in the cloud gets to be very expensive when you start adding more and more users to it. So all the companies, as everybody does, just tries to maximize the amount of profit they make from those devices. And it's just the direction, again, is back from the cloud to the local computers versus in the cloud.
Yeah, you've heard me say before, I'm concerned about long-term power shutdown in terms of like power being out for months. Is all of this memory stored, is it non-volatile, so that if we are shut down with power and no power for several months, can it be restored?
I believe it's non-volatile.
So you're talking about backup, and that's dependent upon each individual service. Saying that you're going to rely on Microsoft, Apple, Amazon to have 100% capability of backing up your information so you can get it back is not a good thing. You should have your own separate backup beyond what it is in the cloud. It hasn't happened recently, but some of the services have come back and said, oops, we lost all your information. You'll have to reload it all again. So if you don't have a copy of it locally, then it's not important information.
That's scary.
It should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Given how much of our important parts of our life are stored digitally now, basically, who has the keys to all your information, and who, if they happen to say, well, fine, we have all your information, would you like it back? Send us money.
Well, again, if a lot of these corporations, and particularly banks or financial institutions, keep information up on the cloud, and they don't have non-volatile storage, we still have, I guess we can keep some of that information down locally, but a lot of it I keep up on, my bank sites, and I don't necessarily keep that locally.
Well, then it's not important enough information for you, sir.
Well, it's important, but I really don't have any way to store it locally.
You misunderstood what I said. If it's important enough for you to back it up, it's important. If you don't, then it wasn't important.
Yeah.
End of subject.
You're willing to let someone else handle it.
I guess I don't know how to back up some of the data that the bank has that I'm able to get on their site. I don't know that I can back it up locally.
You would have to more than likely download printouts.
Yeah,
I have all my.
Get a paper statement.
Are you done, David?
No, I was actually just going to say, I saw a very interesting thing this morning, which goes sort of, in the other direction. We're talking about all of our stuff going out on the cloud. Google just announced that they're taking pre-orders for their first microcontroller that does AI on the edge, is that they're called it, and it's about $80 for this little thing, and it'll do image recognition, and it runs TensorFlow and all these AI things on the edge. And so there's a lot of that computing power that for a while we were shipping off to servers. Now these things are small enough and cheap enough that you can do a lot of that intensive processing out there on the edge, and then only need to send back and store. Oh, so-and-so was recognized at this place at this time doing this thing, which is a whole lot smaller than trying to stream video across to a big server and having it figure things out. So I thought that was an interesting development, that computing power is getting cheap enough that you can do a lot of the fancy computing out nearby where the data is collected, and only send the results back to the servers or things that make decisions. So I thought that was an interesting thing. I just saw that board come out this morning. It's $80. It's about this big. It comes with 2 processors, cameras, and sensors, and all sorts of things, and will plug into things, and then you get a little Wi-Fi add-on board, and then it can be part of the internet as an Internet of Things device. So
doesn't have to have a huge amount of memory, though.
No, I think it's got 128 megs or something like that.
Really?
This is TensorFlow Lite for microprocessors, but it's perfectly good for doing things like image recognition or things like that. I can show you the little video that they put out, but it was a pretty interesting little device, and it's for $80 you can play with some AI on a chip that you can plug into. You can basically attach through USB to your computer, and it comes complete with a camera and a very interesting out-of-the-box experience where they use the camera to recognize people, and then it'll show you how your what your stance is and things like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But
Where
it
do
just-
you get this?
Well, it's just available for pre-orders now. It's from a place called Coral Micro. And it's just you can go to coral.ai/products and look for their microboard. They've just announced it's available for pre-orders today. I think you can get it from a couple of vendors like Mauser and things like that. They're taking orders now, and they say they expect to have a few thousand of these things in by next week.
Did you say pearl as in oyster?
Coral.
Coral
as
in reef.
Yeah, coral.
Can you
Coral.ai.
just type it into the chat?
Sure.
Okay, talking about redundancy, I think it was the AWS guy in one of those videos talked about having a geographical redundancy because places like Netflix, for example, are called upon by people all over the world. I'm familiar with that because I have a YouTube channel with 1,000 subscribers, and I can see where my players come from. They keep track of where the people who play my videos reside. And I see lots of people playing my videos in India. So most big data centers have geographical redundancy so that when somebody from India wants to play something that's on AWS, they can get it from a nearer place than Loudoun County, Virginia. Okay, I think we are done with data centers and data center questions and comments, and we're up for plain old Q&A. Anybody have any problems this week that they need these august people to solve? No augusters.
Pat is raising her real hand.
Hi, Pat. You're muted. Pat, you're still muted.
I take it she'll be back.
Pat's iPhone. That's the same Pat, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think she was on her computer that dropped out.
Yeah, it was, the computer is not working as usual. But the question was, and it applies to the Mac and the phone. I've had to fill out forms. Is there an app or something that where you can, like, you know, they want your signature? So is there an app or something, preferably free, where you can, you're filling out a form and then it says they want a customer signature that you could put in your signature somehow?
So Pat, would this be a PDF file form? I'm thinking of things like the DMV and things like that, where you need a signature or an authorization for medical reasons.
Well, yeah, this was it was just a form that you had to fill out. It didn't say PDF, but it might have been a PDF.
Well, is it online on a website? Or are you downloading this form to fill it out and then send it back to them?
Well, it was both. It was like I was filling out the form online on the Mac. Sometimes it works even. So, but at the bottom it said they wanted the signature and this whole thing wasn't any good without the signature. And so that was one thing to do with this episode. The second thing they said was you could download it and then and then fill it out, I guess, print it out, fill it out. Well, the only thing I know about doing that is that you would like print it out and then scan it in and then send it off as an attachment or something.
So
And
if you could download it as a PDF file, if that's an option, and it's a PDF form where it lets you type into it to the fields, so you don't have to print it out first. You could fill it all out, and down in the signature area, you have two options, at least on the Mac. Everybody would have the option of using the free Adobe Reader program, and there is a way to something and sign, it's called, in the upper right corner, and it will let you create a signature and place it on the Mac. The preview program will let you do that.
Here's DocuSign, which is a way to sign electronically.
okay.
It's all dependent upon what the company you're trying to send the information to accepts. Most of the documents, yes, you can fill out, and then you could download, print, scan, do those. Adobe's tools work very well for that, and there are some free, there are some that you can get free with you sign in and you create an Adobe account. Some you have to pay for. That's how they're making their money. On a PDF form, it depends on how that company created that PDF form. Is it come down as a document that you can only print and then you have to fill it out by hand as such? Or does it allow adding that information in, saving it, and then forwarding that to them? But it's again, it's back to that one company that you're trying to fill the information out for. Now, fax is going away, but it is still here. And a lot of companies are saying if they don't get a fax of something, then with a signature on it, they won't accept it. They don't think it's legitimate. So there's a service that I use that's called Zero Fax. Fax Zero, opposite around, FAX, and then ZERO. It is a service that is free online. There's no sign up. There's no credit card. You can send up to 3 pages of anything in your computer, a picture, a document, anything that you have in there. It will allow you to fax that to any telephone number that you want. And you can do that. I think it's 5 times a day. So you can get up to 15 pages sent free. Of course, their services they want you to sign up for is for receiving faxes, but you don't have to. So when I'm working with somebody trying to troubleshoot their fax, this is the service that I use to send the information to that machine, because I have not had a fax machine for probably 20 years.
And can you repeat the name of that, or put it in the chat, the service you were just talking about?
Fax Zero.
Okay.
Yes, fax zero, okay.
So, zero. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I don't see any hands up. Yes, I do. Stanley. Stanley, you're muted.
Hopefully my space bar will work better than Ross's did. Anyway, I have a question that I could take at the end of the meeting, but it's about Excel and extending a list of dates and how to start with a series and then ask it to extend that series. It's what every month for the next year. Is that, I think that's something that's available in Excel, and I was going to ask Willie to, or anybody else, I could share my screen and show you what I'm trying to do. If I may, if you think that's something worthy of taking up in the general session.
Yeah,
I just highlight the last 2 entries and drag it down. And
okay, all right. Let me see if I'm doing something wrong. All right, I'm
Sharing my screen. Are you seeing my spreadsheet?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, now over here, I have an input field. And you'll see it starts out with January 1, January 1, February 1, March 1, et cetera, all the way down. Newsletter issue, latest delivery date. Now, from here on down, they are not repeating. These are all good. I want to extend this series on down here.
Grab the lower right-hand corner and drag it.
No. Like that?
Yeah. Let go. Didn't do it, did it?
No.
Oh, highlight April 1, April 2. Highlight those and now drag it down. And it's not doing it.
Well,
Yeah, there it did.
It did do it. Okay.
All right, so this is March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. That was very simple. And I did not know it, so I guess I'm a simple head. All right,
Yeah,
thank you all.
Excel will, if you highlight the last two that you want, it tells Excel what the sequence is, and then you just grab it and drag it.
And okay. For other things than dates, if you have a bunch of numbers like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, put those in a group, highlight them and drag it down from there. It'll go on with 14, 16, 18, 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll also do it with text, like you put in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and drag it down, and it'll put the rest of the days in, or months, or any sequence really.
Okay. Is that spreadsheet, as you might have noticed, but you saw it quite briefly, is a spreadsheet I use for anticipating dates needed to publish a newsletter. That allows me, I start out with the date that it has to be received, and I back off 5 days to the date it has to go to the postal service, and I back off 2 days that it takes to create the labels, and I back off 3 days that it takes to get the labels printed. If anybody's interested in looking at that type of a spreadsheet.
So Stan, it takes you 3 days to get the labels printed. You cannot have a label printer or?
Well, it's an interesting process, but with the division of label and one person is formatting them for the post office, I format them for my database, and so anyway, it's multiple people. If one person was doing it, it all could be done in one day. But by trying to distribute the label so that, well, for redundancy, so that when one person is no longer present, the process can continue. And consequently, the process gets a little longer than might be ideal.
I mean, I know at Shepherd Center, we do the our newsletter, and it goes out to 400 and some people, and we just use the post office program to generate the labels, and then we just print them on the big printer, and then the next day a bunch of people come in and stick all of the labels on the newsletters, and they go out to the post office.
I'm well aware of that procedure. All I'm saying is that I was sending it off to the post office, and so I could have done that at the same time. I could have done everything. But by trying to distribute that workload over different people and having redundancy, the unanticipated consequence is the whole process that normally would just take 1 day, now takes 3 days.
It's the overhead of communication.
Yes.
Is there a reason you don't send it out by email?
Yes. Not everybody reads email. not everybody wants their newsletter by email. Some of our members do take it by PDF copy only. Some of them take it by mail only, and some of them take it by both. And I have to make that different list for different purposes, and that's what I do.
Yeah, organizations that I have charge me extra for mailing.
Yeah.
Mailing costs money.
But I just want to say that thank you, Stan, for doing all of that coordination work. It's usually one of those jobs that if it all works right, no one thanks you, and if anything goes wrong, they blame you.
Right, yeah. But that's also called division of responsibility.
Any other computer? I had a big problem with a Kindle yesterday. When I turn it on, I get a splash screen that is really, it's not an ad. It apparently is some app that comes up. And then it asks for a password. But beyond that, I can't get past the lock screen. So I spent about an hour last night with a nice Amazon person from Jamaica. And she finally gave up and said, send your old one back and we're going to send you a brand new Kindle. So I said, thank you very much. They couldn't solve the problem either. So
Yeah, that's a testament to, if you're a squeaky enough wheel, you can often get given some grease in the form of a new iPad, of a new Kindle.
Yeah.
That happened to me once with Amazon. I was trying to return something. Amazon kept sending me a label that required it to go by air. And the regulations in Hawaii are anything that has a lithium battery in it, you cannot send by air. Eventually, after talking to Amazon 2 or 3 times to get the right kind of label, they said, just forget it. Don't send it back. We'll give you credit without sending it.
There you go.
Worked fine. Well, everybody, I think it's about time to quit. It's 9:41 here in Hawaii, which means it's 11:41 in San Diego. And
next week's a board meeting, correct?
yes.
No, we have always done it on the second Saturday.
That would be next week, Stan.
That's next Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, all right.
Yes. And I am looking for subjects for the week after that, and et cetera.
Very good.
I'll get an agenda
I
out.
will sign us all off unless somebody wants to stay on here and have a
See you next week.
private conversation. Pat, you got something else more you want to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that the iPhone 7 is not going to be supported anymore. And it was just kind of like, this is just a comment. And then I noticed in the paper that I guess the iPhone sales are down. So I thought it was kind of a coincidence. So I guess now we have to go out and get an iPhone 8 or above in order to have support.
Dan? Good grief, all of a sudden hands are going up.
I just wanted to pass something on to Will Wakely. In today's newspaper, on the opinion page, it's "You'll say the end is near. You'll have something else to worry about."
Okay, thanks, Dan. My hair is white enough. Yeah, I wanted to pass on that this month is Museum Month, and they say if you go to your local library, you can get a special card that allows you to go into any museum for half price.
The San Diego City Public Library, depending on where people live, well, they're not all in San Diego, does have passes along that line, as well as ones to state parks and other things.
Though interesting about the state parks, is that good for a year or just for a certain month?
Why don't you check with the library?
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. Yeah. One other thing that I found out this particular year, I'm gonna go in the other room. Was that my smoke alarm, carbon monoxide alarm, a first alert went down after 5 years when it's good for 10. So I went out and bought another similar one that I could just put in, so no more drilling. And then when I called first alert to make sure that that was okay to do, because it wasn't in their pages of instruction, she told me that it was still under warranty. So they're sending me a new one. So I'm going to have all kinds of smoke alarms here, I guess. But anyway, just thought I'd pass it along to anybody that has to change out. If you have a first alert and it's good for 10 years, it's still good. It takes 7 to 10 days for them to send you a new one, though.
That's great, Pat. I was just thinking after Dan was saying the end is near, that for Pat's iPhone 7, the end is here.
Yes. Well, God bless
All
you.
right. No more hands? No more hands?
Oh, I have a comment too. Hey, why are your glasses have never been so glary, at least on my screen? So I'm just wondering, are you doing something different?
Yes, I don't have the overhead light on in my study because it's a fluorescent fixture and it's acting up. So I have a little hooded light in back of my computer that's on. And that's the reflection you see of that light.
Oh, I see. Because
You know that, right?
yeah, you look like an alien, you know.
Don't say alien with Will on the same screen.
Oh, that's true.
yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on your monoxide detector. Is that what you were talking about? A carbon
Yes.
monoxide detector?
Yes.
I heard that the reason that they insist that monoxide detectors be put in all new homes in California was because apparently the carbon monoxide manufacturer was a brother to some politician in Sacramento, and they passed a law that said that you had to have a carbon monoxide detector in every home. I don't know if that's true or not, but they certainly could be.
Probably not, Will, and I wouldn't be spreading such nonsense.
Yeah, but
you call it nonsense. I call it possibility.
I think it's called conspiracy theories
Oh,
that are unfounded.
Well, yeah, not every conspiracy theory is unfounded, but one does have to approach them with a bit of skepticism.
That's true.
I was just thinking that it was probably somebody else in the legislature that then said the California government that you can't have any more gas appliances in your house. And if you don't have any gas appliances, I don't know, what do you need the carbon monoxide guy for then?
Good point.
Well, because there are other things like fires.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is with the gas stoves and stuff, I don't have one, but they're just saying that this is what happens when you have a gas stove. I know everybody likes their gas stoves, especially if they're cooking people. I'm not, so I don't have to worry about that part. But I mean, it's up to you. I mean, all they're doing is saying this is the products. They're not saying don't buy it. I wouldn't say.
They were basically putting their floating regulations that would prohibit any new construction from having any gas appliances.
Not only that, but if you have going for an appraisal on your home for some reason, they insist that you have a monoxide detector.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
I think we're off the subject of computers, so I am going to end the meeting for all. I will.
Okay. See you next week.